Muchas gracias por venir. Desde la Dirección Académica de Relaciones Institucionales estamos felices de tenerlos, felices de que escuchen esta oportunidad que brindan estas becas de Stanford University, Knight-Hennessy. Tenemos a Christian Tanja aquí que ha venido desde California a hablarnos un poco de estas becas. Y para decirles, tenemos un estudiante que ya ha ganado una de estas becas en el pasado. Seguro Christian va a comentar algo al respecto. Y somos dos peruanos los que hemos logrado una beca de este tipo, alguien más de la Universidad del Pacífico. Nada, los invitamos a prestar mucha atención a quienes están aquí en la sala y quienes están conectados en el Zoom para sacarle el jugo a la presencia de Cristian, hacerle las preguntas que consideren y postular. Desde nuestro lado, ya que esto es una postulación de maestría, no podemos ayudarles mucho, pero de todas maneras estamos encantados de responder alguna pregunta si lo hubiere para nosotros también dentro de la Dirección Académica de Relaciones Institucionales. Sí, mi nombre es César Miranda, trabajo ahí, como les decía, y nada más. Los dejo con Cristian Tanja de Stanford University. Cristian.
Buenas tardes, right? Um, Hola, mi nombre es Cristian. Mi español es muy mal, so I'll switch into English. So is that okay? Thank you so much for being here and offering some of your time today. I'm excited and delighted to share an opportunity with you if you want to further on your higher education journey and your studies to a place like Stanford University. But I'm very passionate about international education and thinking more broadly because, of course, that's the smart thing to do because Stanford, for all the greatness that it is also a challenging school to get into. So the first question to ask is, do I want to continue on my education and do graduate studies? If the answer is yes, please stay. The next question is Stanford on that list? If the answer is yes, please stay. And if you're looking for an opportunity, not only to fund your education, but also to build your leadership and connect with many other leaders, then please stay. And that's why you're here in this room. Okay, that was my worst nightmare. It already is broken before I start. So now that that's out of the way, welcome to our information session where I'll speak a little bit about the program and also cultivate your interest. One thing before I want to get started is that many international students, they learn about a program and they take the time to prepare, to think about different options, that there's no rush to apply right away. I think in sometimes it's too big of an opportunity to just rush. And so I want to invite you into curiosity, to take some time to understand what the requirements are, but also to prepare yourself both on language preparation, graduate admissions tests, and the application process and the journey. But I'm here to help. Okay, so we love asking questions at Knight-Hennessy Scholars. So I'll introduce the program to you via these questions: why we exist, who we are, what we do, where we do it, how we do it, and also how to join us. And then we'll have some time dedicated for questions that if you have any questions, then we'll have some time to dedicate. And I'll, of course, share lots of resources for you to continue on this learning journey. Again, not only at Stanford, but also thinking about other viable options in the United States, because it's a great place to help add skills to your belt. All right, so our vision of Knight-Hennessy Scholars is to cultivate a growing global community of visionary, courageous, and collaborative leaders who are committed to positive change in the world. Hopefully by now you're like, yeah, that's me, right? That's me. We do so by the mission of our program, which is selecting and supporting a multicultural and multidisciplinary cohort of scholars and prepare them for leadership roles in academia, industry, governments, nonprofits, and the community at large. We select students across all 7 of the graduate schools on campus. So how many of you are engineers? Okay, good amount. I think Stanford's a good engineering school, right? How many of you are educators? Maybe School of Education? That's where my heart breaks a little bit. No more oh yeah, we have some educators. How about studying law, derecho? All right, we have some lawyers, some future lawyers. Fantastic. Medicina, maybe in the biological sciences. No, okay. Oh, we don't. Oh, got it. Okay. How about humanities and science, or humanities, arts and humanities, English, culture, language? We need you too. Creatives, we need you. How about, let's see, who else am I missing? The hard sciences, so physics, chemistry, and then, yeah, is that what I heard, physics over here? Oh, okay, it's okay. Uh, Fantastic. Oh yeah, business. Who are business students? Okay, we got a good, we also have a good business school. So a lot of our programs are ranked, and so we select students across all 100 of our, all 7 of our graduate schools. The program was founded by John Hennessy. He served as the 10th president of Stanford University. He served from 2000 to 2016. He led the university through the 2008 global recession, the big tech boom of Silicon Valley, and recognized that there was not enough conversation happening between different sectors of academia, industry, governments, nonprofits, and communities. And so he wanted to create a fellowship that would instill the simulation or instill the skill set of working with people who study something that's very different than what you study. So imagine a world where engineers work with educators, work with economists to be able to work on problems together, because then you have the skill set of working across different sectors. Now, in order to launch this very ambitious program, he turned to a couple friends, including a businessman and philanthropist. His name is Phil Knight. He is the co-founder of Nike, hence the name the Knight-Hennessy Scholars. So each year we'll select up to 100 students each year across all 7 graduate schools at Stanford. We'll fund up to 3 years of their education and prepare them for leadership roles in their future. So hopefully that's something that's really exciting to you. All right. So this is our leadership model. This drives the entire philosophy of the program. And so I want to unpack a little bit about what you're seeing so that you can start to think about what we're looking for as a program, and then also have a later conversation of what does your graduate program want. And so that's just a preview. There are 2 different applications that you'll need to do. So our top line goals are in the yellow circle. So number 1, broaden your multicultural perspective. Hopefully you recognize that leadership in the 21st century requires different cultural perspectives. I'll jump down to the 3rd goal there, driving meaningful results. We hope that through our programming, it prepares you to be a leader who says and does the same, that you're not a leader who says and does different. And so it's important to make sure you have the skills and practice of being able to ask questions, being able to invite perspective, being able to have humility to recognize you're not the only expert in the room. And so these are skills programs that we support your learning and your training as a leader. And then finally, the middle goal is deepening your commitment to the greater good. And so our hope is that our scholars understand that while you might be getting a master's, a PhD, or a professional degree, that training is so that you can solve the most complex and important challenges of our time: climate crisis, global supply chains, technology transfer, loneliness, pandemics in the future, that these are the things that you're working towards. And so if you know that in order to do so, you need the help and perspective of many others, then I invite you to come joining us as a Knight-Hennessy Scholar. The green circle is our behavior. So those are how we shape the kinds of programming. So the leadership program at Knight-Hennessy is a cluster of experiences, workshops, projects, lectures, all designed to help you with these behaviors, to reinforce these behaviors. And in the blue circle are 9 traits that we strive to cultivate within our community. And so hopefully you see yourselves in that set of 9 traits, that you have examples of your extracurriculars, of your studies and research that are of these 9 different traits. The name for this program is called the King Global Leadership Program, and it's our cadence of programming that scholars will take on simultaneously with their graduate studies. So our program is a complement and a supplement to your studies at Stanford. All of our scholars are admitted to a Stanford graduate degree program, which will deepen your domain expertise, your area of focus. But this programming helps broaden your thinking, and so that you're seeing perspectives from things that are outside of what you study. And so again, you're not graded for those programs. You're not taken. We do have a set that you have to show up as a student, but these are meant to help make you a more sophisticated thinker, a sophisticated doer, and a more passionate contributor to the communities. So again, this is what we hope to get in the people that we admit to our program. All right, so here are a few statistics that help paint the picture of the community that we're just starting to create. So since our founding in 2018, we had 51 students in the first class. We're welcoming our 7th class this fall, who is 90 students, and that's our largest class so far. And we're ultimately going to move towards 100 students per year. So 514 to date. So that's actually not a big number. Even alumni is quite small because some of our students are in PhD programs, which are long, right? So if you're taking a PhD, be patient with yourself because it's a lot of years. They represent 75 different countries of citizenship, including Peru. 45% of our scholars hold a non-US passport. 17% of our community is the first in their family to go to college. And they represent over 112 US institutions and 62 international institutions, including Universidad del Pacífico and PUCP, amongst some of our schools that are there. So you can do it. You can do it. So that's a little bit about our community of 2004, but they haven't enrolled yet. So here's a little bit about our multidisciplinary makeup. So here are the 7 graduate schools that are at Stanford, and there's the percentage. That does not communicate a quota. So we don't have a quota for disciplines. That's actually a reflection of enrollment size, because sustainability, so for those who want to work on climate, and education, those are our smallest enrolled schools. That doesn't mean that it's harder, okay? But for those who are engineering, business, law, you can see those are our largest representation in our pool. But shout out to humanities and arts and social sciences. We want you too. So please come apply, even though Stanford is known for its science and business programs. We currently represent 96 different degree programs. We have over 120 at Stanford. So we're always looking for who studies something that's different and new. So maybe that's something that you don't see on the website. And then in terms of which degrees they're obtaining, 45% will take a program in a professional school, a professional degree, 39% are doctoral program, a PhD, and 34% are masters. For those who are human calculators, that's more than 100% because some of our scholars do dual or joint degrees. And so for those who have a multidisciplinary mind, maybe law plus education. You can do a JD plus a master's in education. Or for those who want to do business and a master's in sustainability. So then you can kind of think about what are these skill sets that are attached to these degrees. And so we can fund up to 3 years of your education for that. So take a look at the dual and joint degrees also at Stanford. There's many, and the campus is known for being multidisciplinary. So usually students will think on psychology and then go to computer science because that's where they want to blend those skill sets together, or linguistics, for example. Okay, so that's about our multidisciplinary community. What is it that we do when we come together? So I spoke a little bit about the King Global Leadership Program. It's a programming cadence or programming, I guess, list of events that help you with deepening your understanding of our goals, as well as the things that we want our scholars to be able to do. So here's the requirements. The requirements for you to participate as a Knight-Hennessy Scholar are as follows. Each year, each term, so we have 3 terms during the year. They're each 10 weeks long, so we have 3 quarters. You will start the quarter with a town hall. That's a chance for you to connect with the other scholars of your cohort and the other scholars that are on campus, and then you'll get announcements as well as have a chance to connect with each other. So even though each class is up to 100, you will have scholars who are ahead of you at Stanford and scholars who are coming up behind you. And so this is an even bigger opportunity to interface and expose yourself to different perspectives. The second option is a weekly component. So for 1 to 2 hours per week, you participate in storytelling training. So these 2 professors are from the Theater and Performance Studies department. They're trained as improv actors, essentially. And their job is to help you become a better storyteller. Now, often many students ask, what's the big deal with storytelling? Well, for us, storytelling is your leadership skill set. Storytelling is the way that you take your very advanced research and make it accessible to someone who doesn't understand it. That's storytelling. Storytelling is the way to build bridge across people who might disagree on something. That's storytelling. Storytelling is also the way to help change people's minds. We all think about our parents and our elders and how much they're so stuck in their ways, right? And so how do you take the time to help them say, there are better ways of doing this? That is also storytelling. And that's why we put our scholars in their first year of being in the program in storytelling workshop. So you practice with Dan and Lisa, you learn techniques, you learn how to deliver your speech, and you get to tell a story throughout the second and third quarters about something specific and special to you. So everyone has the chance to share their story, but then also be a responsible steward or responsible receiver or listener of your fellow stories. And so it's a great opportunity to learn about the world and where people come from. The next is McMurtry Leadership Lectures. So halfway through the quarter, we'll have a speaker come to share about their life and their life's work. Some of our past speakers include philanthropist Melinda Gates. We also had an author of the book Cast. Her name is Isabel Wilkerson, so she won a Pulitzer Prize. Francis Arnold, who's a Nobel Prize-winning chemist. You can see Malala Yousafzai, who also was a speaker. We've had Vice President Al Gore talk about sustainability. We've also had LeBron James. How many basketball fans are there? So we had LeBron James be one of our speakers who talked about education in his home state of Ohio, not about basketball. It was really great watching him on the Olympics this year. And so we bring in a new set of speakers every year that have different perspectives, that share different ways of seeing the world. And so you'll get to hear from a seasoned leader and then be able to talk about their life and their life's work. Scholars get to introduce this person, ask questions, moderate the Q&A. So it also is a good chance for you to get to have practice interfacing with some important people. And finally, we offer a quarterly retreat. So every year, you get to participate in one retreat off campus. And so we unplug you from Stanford. We throw you into California nature, either on the coast or in the mountains, and you and 60 to 80 of your fellow scholars get to connect on light programming, but then also get to do karaoke and bonfires and hiking so that you can really solidify those connections with one another. That's a requirement. So you are required to go on this thing once per year, which I think is a cool experience. So this is what we require of our students to participate in Knight-Hennessy. Of course, they're doing their research. Of course, they're studying in their labs. Of course, they're writing proposals and working on case studies. But then they come to Knight-Hennessy to talk about things like poetry and leadership and seeing the world through other people's eyes. And that's why this is such a special experience. Okay. Now we throw a bunch of optional stuff at you as well. Oh, there we go. So we have a Curiosity Corner series, which we invite professors to come talk and lecture about a particular theme. We've had previous themes about education, technology. Our job is to expose you to different things that you don't study. And so we offer these Curiosity Corner talks so that you can come in and learn about a topic that's new to you. During these talks, we also know that graduate students talk the food currency as food. So we have to provide free meals at every event. And so we know that we can feed your brain and your mouth at the same time at one of these things. The Keystone Projects is a chance for those who are social entrepreneurs or have a big idea or project that they want to work on. So every fall we have a pitch competition. You can pitch an idea that I want to solve a problem, I want to better understand a problem, I want to share this with others. And you invite your scholars to join your mission to work on that thing, whether it be housing access or food inequality or education and technology. And then these projects will, over the course of the year, be given financial support. And then you will get a mentor. So you have like a professor who at Stanford who mentors your project. And then in the spring, you share, here's what we learned. And so during your time as a Knight-Hennessy Scholar, you can continue to work on that same initiative, and we give you more money every year that you pitch it, and then high-level mentors, and then you can apply for a grant at the end of your time. It's a grant to launch a nonprofit. And so one of our winners was a Chilean who wanted to focus on a nonprofit to support young mothers in the first 100 days of the child's life. And so it's a nonprofit to help support and give resources to maternal health. Coincidence, he was also raising his two young kids while doing the business program and the public policy program at Stanford. So he's a graduate of PUCC down in Chile. All right, my final optional component, but usually most students will do it, is the global travel study. So in order to change the world, you have to go see it. And so we will fund a one-week program for you to go to another country outside of what you've been to. So you can see an example here, a group of scholars going to India to look at democracy and elections. We've also had trips to Jordan to look at water access, Norway, environment sustainability, Costa Rica, looking at the environment, and we also have upcoming trips in Turkey, South Africa, and Japan in the next year. So it's an opportunity to kind of see the world. Again, we fund your travel to these locations so that you can have a deep dive in understanding how local problems in those countries are actually quite global in the way that they're connected, so that you'll have that global exposure as well. Okay, one more slide of what we do. We have lots of different community events. So every fall, we just welcome the scholars to storytelling nights, holiday meals. We have a graduation ceremony in the spring, and we have a concert to kind of celebrate the year. Like I said, free food is what grad students want, and so we offer lunch Monday through Thursday at the place where we're based. We also have the opportunity for folks to join different scholar boards. So we have scholars who represent the community for the finance committee, representing admissions to prospective students. We have a DEI committee. So it's Santiago, who is our our Peruvian scholar, serves on the DEI committee and has been really instrumental in understanding the perspective of international students for the community. And so those are things that if you want to practice your leadership, you can join a board. And then we also empower scholars to host their own events. So we roughly will have 150 events per year. That doubles when scholars are invited to host their own events. Actually, Cesar and Santiago held it's called KH Geographic, where they talk about their home countries. And so they talked about the complexity of language and politics, and of course, the rivalry of who has the best ceviche in South America. So it's really a special opportunity to share cultures with others. And so we've had presentations from South Korea, our scholars from South Korea, as well as India. So it's a great opportunity to share within this very multicultural community. So that's it about the programming. I hope that is something that's exciting to you. Again, a good complement to your studies at Stanford. So where does all this happen? Pictured here on the left is Denning House. It's the home of Knight-Hennessy scholars, but it's actually not a residence. So no one lives in that building. That building is where we host our programming. It's where the team works, and students get to kind of hang out, but they live in other parts of campus in graduate housing or off campus or commute down from San Francisco. But that's where it will be one of your home bases. Your home bases will be where you sleep, where you study, and Denning House. And so lots of students move in between those spaces. Now, Denning House is located on the campus of Stanford University, which is where it's great to be a graduate student. So there are over 17,000 students. 9,000 of them are graduate students. So we actually have more graduates than undergraduate students at Stanford. In addition to the fantastic academic landscape, arts and athletics and culture is also teeming in the area. I also like to call out that we have over 50 different research centers. And so if you're really interested in immigration policy, economic policy, the Center for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, these are places where some of our scholars get to participate in because they have an issue set that they're really interested in working on. So do an internet search, research centers at Stanford, and you'll see there's over 50 that are dedicated to many different things that are the problems that people are working on. And of course, Stanford is based in California in the San Francisco Bay Area, about 40 minutes south of San Francisco, where the weather tends to be really nice and temperate throughout the year. And also we're located in the heart of Silicon Valley. And so luckily that gives you the same adjacent opportunity to interface with people who are through Silicon Valley. And so in California, in San Francisco, there's a comfort with ambiguity, there's a bias towards action, and there's a belief that in the Bay Area, anything is possible. So speaking of possible, how do we make all this possible? Well, I mentioned Phil Knight at the beginning, and also, oh, maybe this is running out of battery. Oh, there we go. Oh, see, it's already broken. Sorry. Let me go back one more slide. Okay. So speaking of possible, with Phil Knight and our team of donors, we are the largest fully endowed graduate fellowship in the world. And so that gives us the amazing opportunity to find students from all different corners of the world and fund up to 3 years of their education. So what comes with being a Knight-Hennessy scholar? So you can see here that we'll fund up to 3 years of your education at Stanford. If your program exceeds those 3 years, for example, a PhD, then the department who hosts your degree would explore funding options for you. But most other programs at Stanford, master's and professional degrees are 3 years or less. And so we'll fund up to 3 years of your education at Stanford. In addition to graduate school tuition and fees for what you're studying, we also have a stipend for you to live on campus. You also get a travel grant to go home once per year so that you're able to get that paid for by the program. In your first year, a transition stipend so that you can offset the costs of transitioning to California. And then in your second and third years, We have academic enrichment funds. So if you want to attend a conference or a summit that isn't covered by your department, then you can request those funds to take care of you. Now, you heard a lot about the programming, you heard some about the community. I hope that it's abundantly clear that the value add of Knight-Hennessy scholars is more than just what's on this slide. The architects of the program believe that if we can provide these tools, that gives you more space to work on the problems that you're researching and committing to solving. So it means you don't have to be a TA, a teaching assistant, for so much. It means that you don't have to go to big corporate law, that you can go right into public service. It means that you also have time to not compromise your research because you have to satisfy a grant's requirements, that you really can research what you want to research. And so because of that, that gives you so much runway to invest into your own growth as well as each other. And with that privilege, we hope that you become that world changer 20, 30, 40 years down the line because of this thing. All right, so I answered lots of questions. Why do we exist? Who we are, what we do, where we do, and how we do it. The final question left to answer is how to join us. So let me speak now about our eligibility and our application process and give you a snapshot into the timeline so that you can really make that decision on when is the best time for me to apply to graduate school. And again, you're thinking this broadly, working smarter, not harder, about looking at other options outside of Stanford, but also making sure that it's something that you prepare your best for. So we're open to residents of all countries. So regardless of where you call home, whatever passport that you hold, you are eligible to apply. But we have two baseline eligibility requirements. Number one, you must apply and be admitted to a Stanford graduate degree program. We are a fellowship, a scholarship for Stanford graduate studies. And so if you don't get into Stanford, you're unfortunately not able to use the scholarship. And so that is our number one requirement, that you have to have an active application to Stanford to a Stanford graduate program, or a deferred admission, because some people will apply first to get to their degree and then apply in a later cycle for Knight-Hennessy, so that you start your program and Knight-Hennessy at the same time. The second of our requirements is that you must have graduated within the last 7 years of your bachelor's graduation. So for this current cycle, that means 2018 or later. So whatever year you graduate with your bachelor's plus 7, and that's your window of eligibility. What informed that decision was other fellowships that we know, you might know Rhodes or Shoresman, that in order to change the world, we want to developmentally keep them close to each other. And so that's why it's within the 7-year window. And so you just plan ahead, thinking maybe I'll apply after 2 to 3 years of working, maybe I'll apply right away. The question of how much time do I need depends on the program that you're applying to. So if you're applying to business, they expect work experience. So then you have 2 to 3 years of work experience to be competitive for business. If you're looking to a PhD in physics, they often will take you right away because they want you to go from your lab here to your lab over there at Stanford. And so it's really up to the department on what is valued. Choose what is going to be best for you. Choose whatever is going to help you with your transition to preparation for English tests, graduate admissions tests, life transitions with parents and caretaking. You can choose whatever choose in the direction of what is needed for your degree program, and also what do you need. Those are two more important questions because we're officially neutral on how many years after your graduation for Knight-Hennessy. Now, what we are looking for, which is different than what your grad programs are looking for, they will want that you're best in the field, that you bring in insights, that you bring in research that is going to advance that field. What we look for is a more broader, almost kind of ethereal criteria that is like more high level. And those are these 3 themes: independence of thought, purposeful leadership, and civic mindset. So I know those words might mean nothing to you. And so let me go ahead and unpack what that looks like. So first criteria is independence of thought. There we go. We seek visionary thinkers who are curious, open-minded, and analytical, eager for cross-cultural perspective, and genuinely excited to boldly and creatively address our world's important challenges. On my taxi ride here, I was sitting through traffic. You all know what the traffic is like here, right? Do you want to fix that? Are you looking at your lived experience and saying, what can we do to fix this? I feel bad for those who are just, they're directing traffic and waving their glowing stick. How can we make that more efficient? How can we make the lived experience, transportation, technology? That's the kind of people that we want. So people who are thinking about what are the problems that everyday Peruvians are experiencing, and how do we make it better? So if that's you, independence of thought, we're looking for that kind of criteria where you do a series of experiments that lead to more experiments. We're looking for people who look at one discipline and say, oh yeah, there are solutions in another discipline that can help inform that. We also want people who have the capacity to, oh, change my mind if my data says something else. And so they're not selective about which data that they're paying attention to in climate crisis, for example. So yeah, so that's one dimension, your intellectual vitality, your ability to use your degree as a way to better problem solve and using your head. The second of our criteria is purposeful leadership. We seek courageous leaders who are ethical, decisive, resilient, driven to achieve meaningful results, and motivated to inspire others to effect positive change at scale. Leaders are not necessarily just a set of titles. There are a set of actions behind those titles. And so here's where we're looking at evidence on what happens when you leave PUCP. What did you leave behind at your school, at your workplace, in your community? That's the evidence of leadership. So did you shape people because you're training new officers in your club after you're gone? Maybe you put in a new policy at work that allows for mental health benefits for your fellow employees. Maybe you are creating an initiative to help food access in communities that are in rural parts of the country. And so those are the kinds of things that define your leadership. There is no perfect set of experiences that make you eligible or competitive for a graduate studies at Stanford and for Knight-Hennessy. It's what are you doing to shape the world around you? So where are you showing behaviors? And a good way to ask is if someone else was observing you, what could they say? Oh yeah, this person shows up very early. They're committed to helping many different families. Like this is a dimension where it's behavioral. So we have to see leadership, not just read a bunch of awards or read a bunch of titles. That's not as important to us as is the actions behind that. And finally, the third of our criteria is civic mindset. We seek collaborative community members. So here we go. Okay. We seek collaborative community members who are humble, empathetic, trustworthy, oriented to act in the service of others, and deeply passionate about contributing to the greater good. Hopefully, you think about who is most affected by the problems that you're working on. So back to that traffic example, who has to do a job that is an hour away? It used to maybe be 30 minutes to get there, but now it's an hour and 30 minutes to get there, that they're most affected by these problems. Hopefully, you're also thinking about who can I include? What perspectives? Do we hear those perspectives when we're making policy and changes to a city's infrastructure? Hopefully, you're thinking about inviting those who disagree with you the most to say, hey, we both are passionate about the same thing, so come join me in finding a solution that works for all stakeholders. That's the kind of person that we want, who's using their heart in trying to think through problems. So this is our criteria. I like to summarize it in head, hands, and heart. So that's how you use those three different things, is how do you have an integration of mind, body, and soul in the way that you show up for your industry, for your discipline, and for others. So that's the combination of what we're looking for. And that will look very different depending on your areas of study and your skill set. And so there's not a, again, set criteria that we look for that makes you competitive for the Knight-Hennessy. You just have to show what you do. And then what you do is going to be hopefully aligned to these three things. This text is on the website. So when you're looking to apply for Knight-Hennessy, you just ask what are examples of each of these three things. Invite people who will help you with your thinking and make sure that your application is filled with example of these things. For one person, independence of thought is just how much research that they do. Maybe they've done output where they're published and they went to conferences. That's independence of thought for them. But for another person, that might be having interviewed many different perspectives in a write-up for a newspaper that they're working on. So that's also independence of thought. And so you have to interpret a little bit about what those pieces mean. All right, we're down in the home stretch, I promise. Oop. Let's go back one slide. Okay, so here's the timeline that we work with. And I mentioned earlier that there are two different timelines to think about. So starting on the left-hand side, the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship application timeline runs from June 1st to this year, October 9th. So if you're looking to apply to be admitted and start Stanford in 2025, then this is the year that you're going to apply. Before the October 9th deadline, you'll have to submit 5 components of the KH application. That include an online application, a one-page resume, a set of transcripts and test results that mirrors the degree department. So if they require an English test or a graduate admission test, then we will also require that. If they do not require that, then we do not require it. You'll also write a set of short answer responses and essay, and then 2 reference letters. So that is what we'll need for the Knight-Hennessy, and that's where you'll add all your criteria, the 3 criteria, the evidence of those 3 criteria into that application. Meanwhile, concurrently, but separately, you're also applying to Stanford. And so those timelines, deadlines, components will also vary based on which program that you apply to. So for those who are thinking about the MBA in business, your deadline is in September, on this year on September 10th, if you're looking to apply this next cycle. And so that's the round 1 application deadline. So you have to make sure that you prepare, which means GMAT, which means work experience before that timeline. So for business, that'll be in September. For those who applied to the School of Medicine, that would be in October, School of Education in November, and then law, engineering, and most other programs will be by December. So it's essential to check to make sure that you are applying by your respective deadlines for both Knight-Hennessy and for your degree department. They don't have to be submitted at the same time, just by their respective deadlines. And here's a tip. If you apply to Stanford and you apply on time, you're already in the upper half of our applicant pool. It's astonishing to us that people do not apply to Stanford and do not apply by the deadline, and then half of our pool is already disqualified for those reasons. So if you follow instructions, imagine that you're already in the upper half of our applicant pool. So you are going to be doing the thinking separate for Knight-Hennessy than your department. And so here's a bit of contrast for us. Our online application is free. It is not free to apply to graduate school in the United States. So then you have to prepare and plan ahead in order to meet the fees associated with applying to grad school and test scores, et cetera. The resume for us is 1 page, but for your department, it might be a 3-page CV. We force students to write 1 page because we ask what matters. We're not asking you to submit everything. I'm starting to see resumes in 5-point font. Don't do that. We're asking what is important to you, what aligns with the 3 criteria. The transcripts and test results might be the only thing identical across the 2 applications. The essays will certainly be different, so make sure that you apply with 2 different sets that respond to the questions that you're asked. And then the reference letters, we asked for 2. Your program might ask for 3. For your program, you want to nominate people who know your work, who can underscore your fit for the discipline. So in that case, like someone who knows your research, someone who knows your performance in class, that's important for the grad program. For us, it is not a requirement that it comes from an academic. Ask yourself, who has the evidence of my criteria: independence of thought, purposeful leadership, civic mindset? Your professor might have no idea about your civic mindset and your purposeful leadership. So don't have them write a letter for Knight-Hennessy. Instead, your club advisor or someone who knows you a lot longer in the initiatives that you work on. So ask who is most capable of providing the criteria that is valued by that application process. All right, so that's everything that happens before the deadlines in December. So what happens after December? We will verify that you applied to Stanford. And if you did not apply by Stanford by its deadline, then you are disqualified from further review. From that group of eligible applicants, we will then recommend 500 who have the strongest evidence of the criteria, and we'll invite them to submit another component, which is the video component. So the video component is 2 minutes long in total, and the prompt is teach something to your fellow scholars. And so it runs the gamut in terms of what things that are there: a soccer trick, teaching them how to make an arepa, a dance move that they really like. Whatever is important to you will be great for us. We're not judging you based on content or production value. We're asking, can you tell a story? Are you excited about something? And so that's something that we'll ask for you in that phase of the process. From the group of 500 applicants, we then will nominate 180 that will continue on the process into an experience called Immersion Weekend. The finalist experience, so we'll call them finalists, the 180, will be invited to do a recorded individual interview before they leave and for campus, and then an on-campus experience where we fund your travel, accommodation, and help support you to get your visa requirements to be able to go to Immersion Weekend in person. It is a highlight of the application experience. Many students, regardless of the outcome, enjoy that experience because they network, they find future roommates, they get a chance to see what a graduate student life would be like at Stanford. And it's something that we're really excited about, and that's the end of February and early March. And then in mid-March, we will select who we want for the scholarship. We'll shortlist a group of up to 100 scholars who we want for Knight-Hennessy. Meanwhile, your graduate program will get back to you on a completely separate timeline. And so depending on which program you apply to, master's, PhD, or professional, they'll get back to you anywhere between December through March. As soon as the school says, sorry, this is not your time, then we remove you from consideration for Knight-Hennessy. But for those who continue to move forward and are competitive for their department, if they are selected by their department and on our short list, then they become a Knight-Hennessy scholar that is announced in May. So that's a little bit about the timeline. We've had 7 years to figure out the kinks, but we think this is the working model. Our departments are on board with this same timeline. So you can expect that in future generations, if you're thinking about applying in 1, 2 to 7 years, then this is the timeline that you can expect moving forward. All right. Final thing to share. So I hope that I've done a lot of information sharing and also some inspiration about what Knight-Hennessy is that could help accelerate your pathway to inspiring leadership. John Hennessy, at the founding of our program, wanted to create something that was unlike anything else, that was available to the world's brightest minds and kindest hearts, that would make the biggest impact possible towards solving global challenges. And that's our hope for our students and for you, that we hope that you seek something that is like nothing else. I mean, I don't think there are other programs like Knight-Hennessy at other institutions in the United States. I hope you seek access to the world's brightest minds and kindest hearts that include you. And I hope that you want to make a big impact on the things that you really care about in the most important challenges of our time. And so with that, this is the most recent class, the 2023 class. There are 84 scholars in that class. This is taken on the first day of school. You can tell because everyone's smiling. No one looks like that anymore because grad school is hard. It is really hard. And so you need a community. You need a family to get through. And that's what this program is all about. And so I just want to end. Thank you for allowing me to speak to your community. I hope that you're inspired and excited to share more and to explore more with us. And I hope that I'll get to see and read your application in the future. All right. So with that, Cesar, where'd you go? Cesar. Oh yeah, can I have someone who runs a mic for questions would be good. Okay, so then we'll take some questions from the audience. Is it pregunta?
Well, first, thank you for the presentation. My question would be, I know it's been like a short program since 2018, but do you know any examples of, the life after the fellowship, like the jobs they found, the jobs they were in, the projects they made, just a little example, a little bit, I know it's been like a very short project, but a little bit like the impact of the fellowship that you have seen so far.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the question is about alumni. So we only have 150 alumni. So they're mostly master's grads. They're mostly in their mid to late 20s. So they're hustling in their jobs right now is what's happening. Our hope is that in the 40s, 50s, when they're at that leadership level, that we'll really know if we're working or not. John Hennessy said at baseline, 26 years from the start is when we'll start asking that question. Because the reality is that we're just one of many different leadership development programs, one of many different institutions. And so that impact is something that's still future forward for us. Now, there are early indicators where we have a scholar who is a president of a university in Africa, in Swaziland. We also have someone who's founded a nonprofit that I mentioned earlier, as well as a nonprofit called Education Justice Academy that trains diverse leaders in the education workforce to be able to be school board members. Yeah, certainly lots of startups and whatnot that are not yet the unicorns that we hope in the future. So I am heartened, though, that we have alumni who are dedicated, who are wanting to give back. Oh yeah, one other example, the videographer, the social media filmer for Vice President Kamala Harris is one of our scholars. So I think that's a cool thing for us to see that impact happening because she was an MFA graduate, documentarian. So there's still a lot more questions on what these alumni look like, but I think the engagement, certainly the Stanford network is a nice preview. Even being able to come here to learn more about the region is through the Stanford Alumni Association. So I think that's a good preview of it, but that impact is small, but it's starting to build over time. Sure. Next question. Oh, go ahead and grab that mic.
Okay, hi. Many of us, I think that, many of them are from engineering, but for me, for example, I'm from arts, but I am exactly an industrial designer. So I want to ask you, like, what is kind of like the process if I am like not so well-known degree, you know?
Yeah.
That's like kind of my question.
Yeah, no, and this is a call to anyone who studies a degree that that to invite, like, look at the grad programs at Stanford. So the graduate admissions website will just show what degrees are there. And so you could take it in the direction of a master's in design, for example, was what came to brain. And so asking what's competitive for that program starts with looking at their website, seeing what are some examples of their alumni, thinking about how much work experience that they have. There's a lot of information out there. I know we're now in a world where we want that information to come to us, but because of technology and access, you have to go find out the information.
Okay.
Talk to alumni, talk to other folks who might have done what you've done in the past, and utilize those resources. So, for example, our scholars host information sessions, some talks on Zoom so that you can connect with our scholars. You can also see our scholar directory where you can reach out to Cesar or Santiago. They are said, tell any Peruvians they can reach out to us. And so they are eager to help support. They're not going to do the homework for you. They'll say, go to the website, go talk to this person. But they're able to give you some kind of insights so that you can invest in yourself. It takes a long time to know when you're ready to go to grad school. I applied after 6 years of my bachelor's to graduate school. One of my fun stories is Stanford rejected me, yet I went to continue on my education in New York City. I did a master's in education at Columbia, and then I was able to come back and work at Stanford, a school that I loved so much. Even after 10 years later, I was working at Stanford. So it's a funny thing that regardless of what happens, if you keep on going, then that dream will show up if you keep on going. And I think that was really the life lesson for me. And I think there was also a piece where, oh, is it worth my time? Is it worth my time to apply to these prestigious programs? And I tell students, is your story worth telling? And I hope the answer is yes. I hope that the answer is a resounding yes, that your story is worth telling. So think about problems not just as something that affects these people, but really how do you want to help others through that thing? So I know that was kind of a steer away from your question, but please see the websites. They are there, and professors, some schools encourage your connection with professors, others don't, and other schools are overwhelmed by connections. And so if you see a professor on a website, probably lots of people reach out. Try to go through the graduate students first if they list the people on their website. Stanford has a public directory, so you can type in any name, and if they list their email, then it's fair game to reach out to them. You probably will get a delayed response because people get reached out all the time, but don't stop going. Okay, thank you for that question. Sure. If you can pass the mic as well, I appreciate this.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for your presentation. I have one question because, for example, I have the opportunity to visit another country, and I saw that the transport, the public transport, it was so different.
Yes.
And and I know we have a problem here. So, I want to know the solution. And I know in the program, you you say that it's important to find out people who know the problem and find a solution. What happened with these people, for example, in my person, that I know a problem and I wanted to resolve and I have some ideas and I'm try it, but it's more complicated. I don't know if you say something.
Yeah, I can't say. So I was using that as a broader example. That's something that if you met a scholar who is from Taiwan. I just recently went to Taiwan. Their transportation system is something that's like out of this world as far as coordination. You're on the platform, it sings to you when a train is coming. It's just like there's so many cool things about transportation in other countries. So then you have someone who's connected to a universe and of course that there are also problems on the other side. It's always a question of what are the hidden costs of that efficiency. And then what are the pieces that might be missing in something that is so rigidly structured? Singapore, I would say South Korea, Seoul, Korea, also similar with the same level of transportation. But again, what are the hidden costs, the people power, the infrastructure that's required? And so there's being able to have these questions. And this is something that's important to the ecosystem at Knight-Hennessy is to live those questions. we'll be curious to see how you're already showing some indication of using your degree studies, using your extracurriculars to start to move towards those solutions. And so we hope that students not only just say, here's my ambition of wanting to change the problem, it's here's what I'm doing now that works towards that ambition. We have to see proof. It's not enough to say, I dream of changing the future. We need to see how you're changing it now. And so that's part of it. Now, we're not saying that you have to find like a Nobel winning prize or something. We're not asking that you have to have perfect accolades, but there's a humility to just understanding that what the problems, how we solve them today is still a future issue. It's really the rage talking about data-driven decision making. If you wait for that data, you're already too late sometimes. And so you really have to think forward about how do you do something now, but then also that's phasing forward. And so you have to have access to those systems that give you real time, data informed, but not data driven necessarily, because then you start to lose stories and narratives that are not captured in the data. So that is all to say with any kind of problem solving. Keystone projects is one way that they can start to solve those problems. There's a project with a statistics scholar, a computer science scholar, and a biomedical scholar who worked on a housing equity project. And so that was one of the examples in the Keystones because the statistician was great at analysis. The bioengineer knew what the basic health needs that were needed for this for housing project. And then computer science, of course, is a way to look at data visualization of where housing is going to be. So you're combining your brains to be on different sides of a cube that solve the problem. So if you know that whatever problem that you're working on cannot be only solved by what you study, it cannot only be solved by engineering. You have to have psychology, education, healthcare. That's all part of that. And that's the vision that we're trying to do. It's to create the kind of leaders who know by yourself, you cannot solve it by yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Oh.
Hi, I have a question about the eligibility. You mentioned that we have 7 years after our graduation. Can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah, so it's 7 years after you graduate from your bachelor's. So say you graduate this year, 2024 plus 7. So you have 7 years in 31 to apply, to be eligible. That age range is very strict, or not. It's not an age range because if you went to you graduate your bachelor's at 30 years old, then you have till 37 to apply. So it's based on whatever is on your graduation date plus 7. So that's the eligibility requirement for us to read your application.
I also have a question related to the eligibility. You mentioned that we need to, for example, for engineer, I study mechatronics engineer, and we need to wait until December since the master degrees are in December, but the application for the scholarship is on October. So is there any problem on that?
Yeah, so you would need to reach out to your degree program and confirm that, because it's based on how you're able to start at the program. So my sense is that a lot of international students take time to finish everything before they even explore. Because as long as your coursework and your degree is completed by the time you start, which is August 2025, September 2025, then you're okay to apply with whatever is available at the time you submit. So unlike maybe here specifically, we don't need to wait until your credential to make a decision yet. That we will wait until your final bachelor's is conferred and that you submit your final transcript. And as long as there's not egregious difference that you like tanked your last quarters, that you didn't perform well, that you maintained your performance, then usually as long as all that's done by the time you enroll at Stanford, that's okay. Now, my understanding of the international population at Stanford, so a little over 30% of the campus is not from the United States. So it's a very international school, which is great. But my understanding of looking at our applicant pool is that a lot of students wait because they have to do graduate admissions prep. They also have to make sure finances and whatever support they need to embark on studies in the United States, they take whatever time that's there. So just use that as a metric to kind of not feel rushed to apply right away. The best applicants are ones who learn about the idea, prepare multiple years, and then are ready to put their best foot forward. I know this is a shiny opportunity. It is so special that I don't want you to just go just to see what happens, right? You have to prepare. You have to prepare. And so that means going to different websites, understanding what is valued in those applications. It means applying smartly across different options, working with different offices. Education USA is also another group that helps support higher education studies in the United States. Test prep if necessary, essay crafting if necessary. These are all things. And because of that, we have lots of tools to help support you, but it does take time to make sure that you have the best and most competitive application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Yeah.
Thanks for that great, inspiring talk. It was
Sure.
really. My question is also about the application process to the scholarship. What happens if, like, I apply and do not get in? Do I have a second chance if I defer my application to Stanford?
All right, great reminder. So for me to share this information with you. So a frequently asked question, can you be admitted to Knight-Hennessy and not to Stanford? And the answer to that question is no. In order to be admitted to Knight-Hennessy, you have to gain admission to Stanford. And so that's a requirement for that. The converse, the opposite of that question, can you be denied from Knight-Hennessy and admitted to Stanford? And the answer to that is yes, because they're a separate process, that you could get an offer from Stanford and can continue on to consider going there, provided that the department has funding. It's a well-resourced program. Any PhD program, if you're admitted, is fully funded at Stanford. So just know that if you get into the PhD program, you get funding already. Why they like Knight-Hennessy is that we're a discount student. So we give 3 years of funding to that department. That means they can reallocate that funding to another student. And so that allows them to have that opportunity. And they get someone who's really talented, really nice, and really connected to something that's bigger than the world. If you gain that admission to Stanford, but did not get a Knight-Hennessy, you have the option to defer your admission, maybe do another year of work, and then reapply. And so you can apply every year that you're eligible. And so we have some scholars who got in on their second or third try because either the department was a different fit, that they're more prepared, that they had more experience. We don't compare your applications over time because the applicant pool evolves every single year. So maybe that year that you applied, there was someone who learned about Knight-Hennessy 3 years ago, and now they're ready to apply. And so you really have to take into consideration, again, how important that is. Now, there are 2 additional pathways of being selected as a Knight-Hennessy scholar. Say you start in a master's program at Stanford and you want to add a new degree, an MBA, maybe a PhD, we can fund the new degree, not the in-progress degree. So adding a degree while at Stanford makes you eligible to apply. And then there's a new pathway that we've added in the past 2 years, which if you start in a PhD program at Stanford, in your first year, you can apply, so that will fund your 2nd through 4th year at Stanford, because we want more PhD students in our community as well. So on our eligibility page on our website are all those 4 different ways of being admitted to Knight-Hennessy. And so this is that special of an opportunity. You want to exhaust the chances of admission. So please look and say, here are all the viable pathways. Maybe if I get into Stanford, I can start in a master's and then add the MBA later. Those are also opportunities for you to do when you're thinking about Knight-Hennessy.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. I will take a quick pause to kind of advance some slides for resources because I see some people are grabbing their bags and need to go. So let's go ahead and share some more resources. So we have many online information sessions. The benefit of coming here is you get to meet me. The downside is I'm not able to bring Cesar or Santiago or any of our scholars, but they do join our info sessions. So if you want to get perspective from a student, please join. If you're applying this year, we host application workshops where we screen share the application and go through each tab and say, here's what we're looking for. This is what the reader will want to hear. And so it gives you a kind of walkthrough of our application. So you can join any of those this year, even if you're applying in the future. We'll continue to add those. This was from an idea from an international student that we don't have offices like in the United States where they have scholarship guidance offices. That's why we're trying to give these resources to all you. We also have Zoom meetings, Q&As with myself and any member of the admission team, and also Q&As where you can meet scholars on Zoom as well. We've had some of our Latin American scholars host in Spanish before, but please do reach out. Our scholar directory, the Stanford directory, these are LinkedIn, just use whatever way. Just say that you met Christian at PUCP and they'll respond. So use those as part of your tools to be able to practice this communication, do the homework. Also, to hear from our scholars, we also have a podcast. So we actually have a recorded podcast that's hosted by our scholars where we interview them about the world, the problem that they want to solve, and how are they getting there. And so we have 20 episodes. We have 20 episodes where you can hear from business, engineering, from healthcare, etc., to learn more about our scholars directly from them. And actually, as a fun fact, one of our essay prompts is really tricky. And so they talk about the essay prompt on the episode. It's called Improbable Facts. It's asking you to write 8 things about you that are unlikely but true. And so it's like things like, oh, I'm first in my family to go to college, or I won the first prize medal in a clown competition or something. These are true stories that you can say things that make you uniquely you. So we're challenging our people to be more whimsical and creative rather than tell us your personal statement, which we think is kind of boring. Okay, so then please join our podcast. And then also, you can reach out to khscholars@stanford.edu. If you want to reach me, just say, this is for Christian, and they'll forward that over to my inbox and we can continue the conversation there. kh.stanford.edu is our website. Follow us on social media at Knight-Hennessy. It was a pleasure to talk to you. If you have questions, I'll hang out because we have the room until 2. But I know some of you need to go change the world, so please go change the world. But I'll be here. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and take care, okay?